We also have to remember that Hamas does not represent, let me say it again, Hamas does not represent the vast majority of the Palestinian people on the Gaza Strip or anywhere else. Hamas is hiding behind Palestinian civilians and is despicable and, not surprisingly, cowardly as well. This also puts an added burden on Israel while they go after Hamas. But that does not lessen the need to operate in line with the laws of war.
During the news conference, Biden also questioned the reported death toll in Gaza.
No notion that the Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed. I'm sure innocents have been killed, and it's the price of waging a war. I think we should be incredibly careful. I think not we, the Israelis should be incredibly careful to be sure that they're focusing on going after the folks that are propagating this war.
President Biden, you're the coward. You're the coward. You are the coward who has the power to completely shut this whole thing down. You have the ability to stop this massacre, this genocide. But you are funding it. I know this is not something you are alone responsible for. It has been the foreign policy of this country forever, for as long as there was Israel. But imagine being 81 years old, knowing your days are numbered, and having this incredible choice in front of you. Yet you chose, instead of doing the right thing, you chose to side with the people who are committing genocide. I used to think you were a man of integrity and decency. An honorable man, I used to think you were. You're such a coward, pathetic, just pathetic. I remember when you were running. Let's make one thing clear. I am running to rescue the soul of this nation. You're the one who's destroying the soul of this nation, of the American people, which many of them are decent, kind, generous human beings. The American foreign policy is destroying America. But you are destroying the soul of the American people. You are shameless. Shameless. How dare you speak for the Palestinian people when you are cowardly ordering their massacre? How dare you? Yeah, Palestinians lie. Israel doesn't lie. They're the biggest liars on earth. Making up lies. Taking everyone hostage to the point where no one can speak. Well, it's too late. The genie is out of the bottle and it's not going back. The truth is out there for the world to see, you pathetic cowards. 1,400 Israelis were killed. These are the terminologies they're using. But this many Palestinians died. I wonder why. Why did they die? What happened to them? How? Well, did they just die? Oh my God, this is the freaking 21st century. And they're trying to spoon feed us this nonsense, these lies, these fabrications, picking and choosing their words, all these subliminal messages. They think they can brand the narrative. They can control the narrative. No, you can't anymore. The whole world is seeing the reality, the lies. the apartheid, the genocide. The whole world is seeing. All of humanity is seeing. You're not going to get away with it. You are not going to get away with it. I know some of you are saying, vote Trump. He's just like them. I mean, they all have to uphold the American foreign policy towards the Middle East. They might not come together for what's best for America and for Americans, these two parties, Democrats and Republicans, but they surely will come together and stand together for Israel. Always and forever. How pathetic of you. You might think Palestinian children and Muslim children are not worthy, they're not equal to Israeli children. But that's not true. We're all human beings. We're brothers and sisters in humanity. Our equality is affirmed by our Creator, not you. You are soulless. The truth's coming out. It really is coming out. Something is definitely happening, and I know things will never be the same after this. You know, they might kill 100,000, 200,000, a million, but things will never be the same again after this. Everything's going to change. Check this out. Very interesting. And I'm coming across a lot of them.
I do not stand with Israel
Check this
at
out.
all on what's going on. And I'm finally starting to realize, for lack of a better term, how brainwashed I've been. I was taught to love Israel. I went to Jewish elementary and Jewish high school. And, we're singing the Hatikva, the national anthem. We're singing all these Jewish songs. And we're taught this one very specific view of
He's
history.
not Arab. He's the Jewish.
We were taught basically that,
Jewish.
the land was ours. We were taught that, we tried to offer them a solution. We tried to offer them peace, and they kept on attacking us. And the reason why we kept on gaining more and more land was because they would start wars with us. And we would defend ourselves, and we would just end up with more land. And so we would try and give it back to them.
The lies.
And now I'm starting to recognize more and more, firstly, that the Palestinians are living in, this is the phrase that's being thrown around, an open-air prison. 2.2 million people who are being restricted in their food, their water, their electricity, their fuel. Children who are born into a prison who are never going to be able to go anywhere and do anything. And this has been going on for 50 to 60 years. And we were taught to resent them. And so, obviously, again, the killing of innocent people by the Palestinians, awful, terrible, inexcusable. And then I watch Israel's response, carpet bombing this open-air prison with 2.2 million people. They're doing the same thing. I do not stand with Israel. I stand with the Palestinian people. I do not understand how we as Jews can stand by while a nation cries for freedom. They are trapped there. It might not be as explicit as putting them into gas chambers, but it's still genocide. And we talk as Jews in regards to the Holocaust of never again. Is it just never again to us? Or is it never again? Because I thought it meant never again. But we're still being taught this separation and this complete lack of identification of what is happening with these people. So, now, can I excuse?
Yeah. This is powerful. But there's so many of them. So many of them. So I say, nothing will ever be the same. Nothing will ever be the same.
This is war.
No, it's not. This is a massacre.
It is combat.
Against who? Children?
It's going to be messy. And innocent civilians are going to be hurt.
No, people are going to die. Their bodies are going to be demolished, pulverized, incinerated. Let me ask you something. If the United States Air Force started drone striking Detroit, bombing hospitals, ambulances, residential neighborhoods, shelling schools, kindergartens, universities, blowing up churches, grocery stores, and factories, killing unarmed, defenseless civilians who are just trying to sleep at night, or even using them as human shields, would anyone in the United States have any doubt as to what that was? No. everyone would understand that is a crime against humanity. That is why you have the UN, the ICRC, the World Court, the ICC, every governmental institution that you can think of, or judicial body, or human rights organization, all unilaterally condemn collective punishment as a war crime. And that is at the very least, what is happening right now in Gaza. Oh, but I hear you say, Detroit is not Gaza. Yeah, it's an analogy. If an analogy were perfect, it would cease to be an analogy. War is fought between two militaries, two armies, two nation states. It is not fought between a nation state, which is a nuclear power, most powerful country in the Middle East, against a defenseless civilian population who are running for their dear life, trying to escape the bombardment. Israel has killed more than 2,000 children in the past 18 days. 6,500 civilians total. Do you think they've responded? Do you think that this is an act of self-defense? Its war is against children living in a concentration camp.
That we aren't going to still express concerns about that and do everything we can to help the Israelis do everything they can to minimize it.
There is no evidence, I mean zero evidence in the historical record that Israel has ever tried to minimize civilian casualties in the many numerous illegal high-tech raids that they've conducted into the Gaza Strip. In fact, the point is civilian casualties. The point is to wreak havoc and destruction on the civilian population and their infrastructure. It is to punish, humiliate, and terrorize the civilian population, as the Goldstone report found in 2009 after Operation Cast Lead. This is what Israel calls mowing the lawn. This is Israel's publicly acknowledged and recognized official strategy of deterrence, which they conduct against the Palestinian population. The point is to wreak disproportionate violence and collective punishment on Palestinians. You should read the list, not even the reports themselves, just the list of human rights organizations which have conducted investigations concerning the crimes against humanity of Israel's Operation Cast Lead in 2009. You know what? Don't even worry about it. I'll just list them for you. Human Rights Watch, the UN's Goldstone Report, Amnesty International, the International Crisis Group, the Physicians for Human Rights Israel, B'Tselem, the Israeli Information Center for Human Rights in the Occupied Territories, the International Committee for the Red Cross, the Dugard Report, publications like Haaretz. I just listed 9 for you. There are hundreds. All of them unilaterally concluded that most certainly the IDF committed an entire range of war crimes, including bombing health facilities, ambulances, despite knowing that they were of no military importance, or using Palestinians as human shields. For example, the IDF would situate Palestinian civilians near artillery and tanks as they fired upon houses. Or they would walk civilians in front of the soldiers and the soldiers would fire over their shoulders. Or they would put them in windows in houses and then fire behind them. The Israeli government loves to say that Hamas uses its own civilians as human shields. Meanwhile, there is no evidence that that has ever happened. I mean, zero evidence. And you can comb through all the human rights reports on this matter. And yet there are volumes of evidence that the IDF has done just that. Just like the many raids on Gaza the Israeli government has conducted in the past, this is not a war, it is a massacre.
I want to show you the absolute courage of these Palestinian people. If you haven't heard by now, Blinken called Qatar and said, rein in Al Jazeera's coverage, right? And then the following day, Israel decided to try and rein it in by targeting one of their top journalists in Gaza. And they did so by murdering his family while he was live on air. But here is the story of courage. This man today is out reporting. Take a look.
السلام عليكم. أولا شكرا على كل رسائل التضامن والاتصالات والسؤال عنا والتضامن معنا والدعوات لنا. بالتأكيد هذا شيء كان مهما بالنسبة لنا، لكن رأينا أنه من الواجب أن نعود سريعا رغم كل شيء. فالساحة والمحاور ما زالت تشتعل كما ترون بالغارات وبالقصف المدفعي والتطورات متلاحقة. فرأيت أن من واجبي رغم الوجع ورغم الجرح النازف أن أعود سريعا وألتقيكم من خلال عدسة الكاميرا عبر مواقع التواصل. يعطيكم العافية وأسألكم الدعاء دائما وأبدا. السلام عليكم.
Governments across the world, in an attempt to address anti-Semitism and somehow redress the horrors of the Holocaust, are allowing Israel to get away with apartheid, ethnic cleansing, detention of children, torture, restriction of movement and other freedoms, and the illegal occupation of land. After every genocide, the world cries out, never again. And yet here you see another attempted genocide unfold right in front of your eyes, and you don't just watch on quietly, but actively supporting the oppressor. But we will not allow you to get away with that. While I am by all means condemning the attacks by Hamas on the Israeli people, I am also condemning the violence Israel is and has been inflicting on Palestinians since 1948. And I stand with the Palestinian people for their right to self-determination. As long as we allow for the continued oppression of Palestinians and place higher value on the lives and right to self-determination of some over others, we will not see peace in the Middle East. There cannot be peace without justice, and there cannot be healing without justice.
They plan and Allah plans. Allah is the best of planners. It's about time for white Westerners to take up the story of the Palestinians. Unfortunately, that's the truth. That's the reality of the world we're living in. But it's about time for white Westerners to take up the cause of the Palestinian people.